Hi friends, in the last session we have learned how to create a database and login user to use that database. In this session, I'm going to show you how to create a table and different data types that we have in SQL Server 2019 and how to choose a data type for a column, table column based on the source data. So let's open our SSMS and connect to our database engine using SQL Developer user login we created in the last session. Let's connect to database engine, enter your server name and choose your SQL Server authentication or Windows authentication and login user. I'm using my SQL Developer login and password and connect. Something happened. SQL Developer. Okay, password. Okay, it's connected. Now let's go to databases and use, let's try to create a table using GUI. So I will choose the database name based on the method I'm going to show you. Okay, so I'm going to show you GUI type now. So let's use learn GUI database, expand that, and to create a table we have to go to tables group and then right click on the tables, click new and then table. You will see many options, different types of tables SQL Server supports. So let's create a basic table in this session. So let's create a new table and so it shows a window like this, and the first column indicates column name and the second column data type and the third one allow nulls or not. So null is a uh, is kind of data that table stores. Null means nothing. Empty means empty. So it SQL Server separates these two types of data. Okay. Okay. Now enter your column name. So let's have some task for us. Okay. Let's go back to an Excel sheet that I prepared for this demo. And in this demo, let's assume that we received a task to store this data in our database uh, for our reporting purpose or whatever. Okay, so let's try to create a table with this data. So here we are in Excel now, so we can compare our SQL Server database with our Excel workbook as well. So database means a workbook. Like in the workbook we can create n number of sheets, right? So it's a workbook and we can create n number of sheets. So we can say a database is similar to workbook, which can have hold multiple tables in it. Okay, so table means it stores data in the form of columns and rows and cells. Okay, so that means relational table. So if any object that stores data in the form of columns, rows and cells, that means a table. So this is also a table, but it's not a database management system. It's a file based management system, but it's a relational table only. Okay, so okay, let's go and create a table for this data. Okay, we have already created a database in our last session. So in this session we are going to create a table with this data. So in this table we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, and this information is related to employees new joinees. They are not actually joined. This is just an information that we received from our HR that these people gonna join in this date with this salary and with this experience, and they posted this role and description on the website. So these are the different data types that we have in this Excel. Okay, so now we are going to create a table and we are storing this information in that table. Okay, so let's go back to the database and let's create a table with exactly which to fit this information in that table. Okay, the first column is ID. So let's create an ID here, and then data type. So it shows a drop down. So out of from this drop down, you will see many data types. So you have to choose the data type that it belongs to. So here the data type, the data that we have in this column is numeric, right? And the data type, data that we have in the other field name is string or character, right? So, and this is float or double or decimal. Salary, salary means integer, that is numeric again, and date is date. So it makes sense, right? So we by seeing the data we can easily identify the type of the data. So by looking at it or by making um, sense of the whole domain knowledge or some knowledge, if we apply that knowledge, then we can simply say work experience may have the float number, even though we receive the data as a five or as an integer. We can say by applying some common sense on the field or on the domain, right? So in this case, ID is an integer, numeric. So let's go to table and declare integer. So when we select integer here, like we will have int, and we will have a big int, and we have many types of integer types. So what integer type do we have to select in this case? So that we need to analyze again the source data. So let's go back to the source again, and here the ID. So let's say our company is a big enterprise and there will be around lakhs of employees in our database. Okay, so in that case the ID will grow very regularly, right? So so in that case, the based on the number range, we have to choose our data types. So in this case, the number range, so for those type of ranges and all, we have to check SQL Server 2019's data types dictionary to identify the data type that we have to use for this data before we're going to create table and column data type. Okay, let's go back to our SQL Server 2019 data types that it supports and the ranges that it allows us to store. Okay, okay, let's go slowly from here. Maybe I'm going a bit faster, I think. So if you don't understand, please don't mind. Please try to concentrate. So I'm gonna explain you this one. Okay, so these are the different data types that Microsoft SQL Server 2019 has. And if you see this, so data type bit means it stores only 0 and 1. It only stores 0 and 1. We use this kind of data type for is active, for an indicator purpose. Is active, is employee still there in the company or not? Is active or not? So yes, only yes or no indications we use this bit. Okay, it takes 1 byte of storage. So no need to go that much storage level uh, detail now. Just try to focus on just the ranges because it is important. You can't choose a bit for an integer type because it has integer, right? So or you can't declare tiny int because if it doesn't allow us to store more than 255 number. If we have 256, if we try to save 256 number into a column that has tiny int data type, then it will not store 255. It may store a different value or it may give error. Okay, so that's why it's very important to know about data type and their ranges before we going to choose column data type in a table. Okay, so in our case, small int is supports 32,767. So our employees will be more than this number, right? So integer supports this many number. So this is really a big number, right? So I think integer we can choose, or still if we get uh, if we are still not confident on this data type, then we can choose big int. Big int stores this much number. Okay, so let's go and select big int for this id. Okay, let's go and select big int. You can enter like this, big int. And is it allows null values? No, I don't want to allow null values because it is an identifier, unique identifier for that new joinee or employee. Okay, and you can also choose additional properties in this window. Like if you want to make it as auto increment number, then you can choose here identity specification as yes. So that means it allows it takes the number automatically, no need to we, and it will not allow us to insert a number into this id. But for now I don't want to cover this in this basic section, so let's go and concentrate on the normal table. Okay, in this session, so let's cover the additional properties that we can set in the later sessions. Okay, let's go id and big int because my id stores more than the value, huge number. Okay, so I'm selecting this big int, and then select other column is name, right? So name. So let's go and declare another column for name and data type. So what data type do I have to choose for name? Okay, name. So name obviously more in real world, obviously name doesn't have more than 500 characters mostly, right? So we can trim it. So in that case we can choose varchar, so 8,000 characters, varchar max this much unique characters, or char of n 8,000 characters. So n indicates here char of n. N means size. So char of n means character of, suppose if we declare like char of 10, that means 10 characters. It restrict the storage for 10 characters only. That means n. Okay, so I think it makes sense. Please comment if you have any questions. I don't mind. Um, so varchar of n. So the difference between character and varchar is character allocates the memory, fixed memory to the declaration. Like if we declare char of 10, that means SQL Server allocates memory as fixed. So it will not allocate that though we store some only 5 characters data in that allocated 10 characters memory, it won't use that 5 characters, remaining 5 characters memory to other declarations or other variables that we use, other columns that we use. Okay, so that's the difference between character and varchar. Varchar means it can reuse the allocated memory if it's not used by the same column. So varchar of max means maximum data type. Maximum can store up to this many size, and the text in nchar, nvarchar. So nvarchar means Unicode character. So varchar and nvarchar. So varchar stores non-unique code. That means if we receive any special characters like our Chinese language or any other language, then it can't store. It stores only English, and it won't store any special characters in this data type column. Okay, so in that case we have to choose nvarchar. That means Unicode varchar. So it can store Unicode varchar. So storage may differ because it also have to store the additional indicator that it indicates Chinese language, it indicates Spanish language, like that. So it has to maintain that additional indicator in the storage. So storage between this varchar and nvarchar differs. I think I'm giving maybe bit I'm confusing you by providing more information here, but I will come this session later to explain more detail about these data types. But okay, let's create our table in this session. Okay, so for our name, I believe nvarchar is better because some people might have a special characters in their names, right? Okay, let's go and create nvarchar here of I want to give only 200 size. So I would like to allow, oh, I don't want to allow nulls here as well. And then the third one is role. So I'm giving vark and varchar of 200. So allow nulls. Okay, I would like to keep allow nulls here, and then role description. And here role description may have big size, right? So n varchar of max, n varchar of max. And then because, so if you notice here, because we have space between the column name, it is assigning starting brace and closing brace, right? Please notice this. So SQL Server, uh, when we query data from this table, we have to use this starting brace and closing brace and between the column uh, to retrieve the data from this table. So that's why usually most of the cases the best practice is to remove the spaces before we create a table if you can. If already existing table, then that we can't do anything. But if you are working on it for the first time on the table, you are creating a new table, then better to remove the spaces be in the column name or any SQL Server object. Okay, now let's go back to the sheet again. Work experience, work experience, I'm giving short names here. And then because it's a decimal type, you can choose float, double, or we have different data types in SQL Server. You can choose whatever you want. So let's choose float. Float can store, let's go back to our data types and float, check the range. Float can store up to this many characters, right? So that's more than enough. In most of our cases in real time, we use float. Or if we want to have a limited precision point and all, then we will use decimal or numeric. Okay, whereas with scale and precision, we use these both. So both are pretty much similar, but Microsoft has these two supported data types. So okay, now for this work experience, float is enough. And then go back to sheet and salary and start date. So salary, start date, so date time. So let's say date time. Sorry, not salary is an integer, right? Big int. So sometimes though we receive the data here as a integer, sometimes some people might have dot 50 like that, right? We have some float values as well. So in that case, of course, I think it's a big good practice to maintain salary kind of information as a money data type and or a decimal numeric data type. Sometimes some people use numeric or decimal data type, and a few people use money data type. So let's check money data type whether we have in SQL Server 2019 or not. So we have small money, right? So small money stores this much number only 21, right? 214478. That is the money, small money, and money we have, and that can store up to this many length, right? Number. So let's use money data type. So what's the benefit we get with money? So money can identify the dollar or the country wise different money indicators. So there is a separate um, data type. It's a separate special data type introduced by Microsoft to support that money. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to other sheet, and the final one is start date. Start date. Start date. So date time. date time, or we can also have date if it is date. Okay, and SQL Server supports different types of date types. That means it supports UTC date, it supports uh, many other data types. You can check that in the SQL Server documentation if you want more details on that. So these are the data types that it supports: date, date time 2, date time offset, small date time, time, like that. So I will cover that in the later sessions. So let's focus on the basic table create. So let's go step by step from the basics for now. Okay, now we have done with the table uh, declaration, right? Yeah, we have done with the table declaration. Now let's, in order to create the table, we have to save this, right? So let's click on save here in this icon, or Control S can also save, create the table. Okay, let's click on here. So it asks table name for this. So table name is employee, right? Employee. I want to create a table name employee. Create, click OK. So table created. So if it's saved, you will not see the star icon here, star indicator here. If you it's created and saved the changes, then you will not see. Okay, now close it. Now expand this, refresh and expand this. So you will see that dbo.employee. So we have just created the table and we got a bit idea on the data types and columns, how we can use. So now let's go to command mode and let's create the same table using our SQL query. Okay. Okay, in the next session, I will show you how to insert the data into these tables. But in this session, let's focus on how to create this table in two different ways. We have just completed using GUI. Now let's create the table in command. So table creation using command is very quick and simple. So I think best practice is to use um, create table syntax command. Create table, simple, create table, and then I'm using learn CMD now. So and previously earlier I used learn GUI. Now I'm using learn CMD. So I can create the same table again, the employee. Okay, and the column names goes here. So this is the syntax: create table employee, starting brace, and then columns ID, and then data type big int, comma. So I don't want to allow null, right? And then name is, so if you see that blue indicator, that means that's a reserved word, reserved keyword, SQL Server reserved keyword. So in that case, it's a good practice to have starting brace and closing brace, or you can have an additional append like emp name, like that. So then that's a good declaration. Okay, otherwise we get confused when, and it will not support to query without the braces, with spaces we need to have braces, right? In that case, that applicable to keywords as well. So let's have a append a name and try to convert it as a normal word wherever possible if it is a new table. And if you have control on it. Okay, so employee name, and it's I want to declare it as in varchar of 200, and I don't want null values here, right? So not null. And then role, so role is also a reserved word. So let's have like this. Okay, and varchar of 200. No, so I want to allow null, so you can allow null. And then role role description and varchar of max null. And then we have salary and money, right? Money null, comma, and then start date. I think we have missed one field. What's that? What is work experience? Okay, work exp work experience is float, right? Yeah, float, comma, and this is also null. And start date is date time, right? So that's it. Let's I don't want to yeah, null. Okay, and then closing brace. That's it. So this is how we have the basic syntax of table. So it goes like create table, table name, and then columns, and then data types, and then specification. We can so execute now by clicking on F5. Okay, so create table permission denied in database learn CMD, because in the last session we have granted permission on only SQL dev, not on the SQL developer on this database, right? So let's go and grant access for SQL developer as well on learn CMD. Okay, so let's connect with our admin role and then go to login, security, logins, and then SQL developer. Now go to user mappings because database level access, and then this one, select first one. So grant, select this DB owner, click OK. Now go back again and then execute this. So executed, right? So let's refresh the table. Sorry, let's refresh the table and you will see the table here. So we have created a table using GUI and command. So please comment if you have any question, and please like, share, subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching my video.